Once, long ago, before stories had names, there was a fisherman who vanished into the sea, and some say into time itself. The tale begins where all quiet things begin, beside the water. You live in a small village that leans against the edge of Japan's coast, where roofs are made of straw, and the sound of waves never truly stops. Every morning, the air carries a salt-sweet breath from the ocean, brushing across your face as you step outside. The horizon stretches wide and golden, so vast that even your thoughts seem to drift out there and dissolve. You have no need for clocks here. The tide tells you when to rise, when to cast your nets, when to rest. The sea has always been your teacher, your neighbor, and your prayer. You carry your nets across the cool sand. The fibers are rough against your palms, still damp from yesterday's work. Beside you, gulls cry like gossiping spirits, circling low, their wings flashing white. The sun is still young, resting low over the waves, and the water looks almost alive, a sheet of shifting silk, breathing, sighing, endless. Each ripple catches light, like a secret being passed from one hand to another. It's a simple life you live, yet it feels deep in ways words can't reach. You were taught that the sea gives and the sea takes, and that every fish pulled from its depths carries a story older than the village itself. You remember your father telling you once, as you mended a torn net, that the sea remembers everything, every offering, every loss, every whisper. In your world, people still bow before the water before setting sail. They still murmur soft thanks when they return. The sea, after all, is a god in disguise, or perhaps many gods, wearing the mask of wind and tide. You don't question such things. You've seen too much to doubt. Sometimes, when you pull your boat onto the sand, you think you can hear it breathe. A slow inhale, a deep exhale, the heartbeat of the world. The village itself is small but kind. Houses cling together like old friends, their wooden walls darkened by salt and sun. Smoke rises from cooking fires, curling lazily into the morning air. Children chase each other along the beach, their laughter mixing with the cries of gulls. Old men sit near the shrine, whittling small offerings from driftwood, while women rinse seaweed in woven baskets, their voices soft, almost singing. There's a rhythm to it all, a rhythm you feel in your bones. Life here doesn't rush, it flows. You push your little boat into the shallows. The water is cold, biting at your ankles, but familiar. You can feel the pull of the tide around your legs like a gentle invitation. You climb aboard, take up your oar, and begin to row. Though it creaks softly, the sea sighs beneath you. As the village grows smaller behind, the rest of the world disappears. Out here, it's just you and the breathing blue. The farther you go, the more the surface changes. Darker, deeper, as if you're rowing into the thoughts of the ocean itself. You pause to rest, listening. The silence isn't empty, it's full. It hums with unseen life. The flicker of fish beneath, the distant groan of shifting currents, the faint whisper of wind. You realize how small you are against it all, yet how gently the sea holds you. There's no need to fear something so vast when it has known your people for centuries. You drop your net slowly, letting it sink, and watch the surface ripple in slow rings. Your hands smell of salt, rope, and patience. You think about your mother, who once said that humans and waves are cousins. Both rise, fall, and return again. Her words always made you smile, though you didn't understand them until much later. Perhaps she meant that even sorrow, like the tide, comes and goes. The sea can be cruel, yes, but also forgives. It forgets faster than people do. Maybe that's why you find peace here. The sea doesn't hold grudges. It simply moves. Hours drift by, though you don't count them. Time at sea doesn't follow the same rules as on land. The sun arcs slowly overhead. Clouds gather, drift, and scatter. Your thoughts wander too. You think about the stories the elders tell, of sea maidens who dance beneath the moon, of dragons sleeping in palaces made of coral, of turtles that live 1,000 years and carry islands upon their backs. You never believe such tales literally, but part of you hopes they're true. There's comfort in believing the world is larger than the eye can see. Sometimes, when the water is perfectly still, you feel as if the boundary between this world and another grows thin. The waves shimmer strangely, the air thickens, and you sense eyes watching from below, not menacing, Just curious. You whisper a quiet greeting then, because that's what one should do. The sea listens, after all, and it remembers names. As you pull in your first catch of the day, the sun leans lower toward the horizon. The fish glisten in the light, silver bodies flashing like quicksilver. You handle them carefully, thanking them in a low voice, a habit learned from your father. To live by the sea is to take without greed. You eat what you need, sell what you can, and give the rest to the shrine. You've seen what happens when men grow careless, when they take too much. The sea grows silent, stingy, or worse, angry. Storms, everyone says, are not accidents. They are reminders. By the time you return to shore, dusk is settling. The village glows with warm orange light from the hearths. You can smell rice steaming, fish grilling, laughter carrying across the sand. You tie your boat and look out once more. The horizon has swallowed the sun, and the water turns from gold to violet, then to black. The first stars blink faintly above. You feel tired, but it's a good kind of tired, the kind that comes from living simply and honestly. You know this peace won't last forever. Nothing ever does. But for now, the sea is calm and your heart matches its rhythm. You kneel by the waves, dipping your fingers into the cool water. The tide reaches for you, then retreats. It feels almost alive, almost affectionate. You wonder what the sea dreams about when it sleeps. Does it remember faces? Does it recall the hands that once touched it gently? You smile at the thought, rise and go home, unaware that the sea, this old companion, has already taken notice of your kindness, and that soon it will call you somewhere beyond its shimmering edge. As you listen, imagine the sea beside you, calm, endless, whispering secrets. What do you think it would say to you tonight? Sometimes, the smallest kindness ripples through centuries. That morning began like any other. The sea soft and gray beneath a pale sky, the air thick with the scent of brine and pine. You were walking back on the shore, your baskets empty but your heart light. The tide had been gentle, the catch modest, enough for the day. Children played among the dunes, their laughter bright as bells carried on the wind. You smiled at the sound, for it reminded you of your own boyhood, days when you chased crabs, built castles of sand, and believed the sea was a friend that would never leave. But as you drew closer, the laughter changed. It turned sharp, uneven, the sound of mockery rather than joy. You paused, listening. Then you saw them, 3 boys standing in a circle near the water's edge. Between them, floundering helplessly on its shell, was a small turtle. Its flippers beat the air like slow, desperate hands. One boy poked it with a stick, another tossed sand at it, while a third laughed until he hiccuped. Something inside you stilled. You knew these boys, sons of fishermen, wild and restless. They were not cruel by nature, just thoughtless, as children often are when the world still feels like a toy. Yet, as you watched the little creature struggle, a quiet anger stirred beneath your ribs. You set down your nets and walked toward them. Enough, you said softly. The boys turned, startled. The tallest of them, Ichiro, the carpenter's son, scowled, embarrassed to be caught. It's only a turtle, he muttered. It can't feel anything. You knelt beside the creature. Its shell was scratched, its eyes dull with fear. Carefully, you brushed the sand away. It feels the sun. It feels the sea. It feels the pain of being trapped. You said, your voice calm, though it trembled slightly. And that's enough for us to show mercy. The smallest boy hesitated, his hand still holding a stick. But it's just slow, he said. You smiled faintly. Yes, you replied, and yet it has survived longer than any of us. Maybe there's wisdom in moving slowly. For a moment, none of them spoke. Then, awkwardly, they dropped their sticks. The tallest boy shrugged and turned away, pretending not to care. The others followed. Soon, their footsteps faded into the hum of the sea. You were alone with the turtle. You lifted it gently, feeling its weight, light but steady, in your palms. Its shell was cool, patterned like a map of ancient currents. You could see a faint pulse beneath its neck, a stubborn will to live. There now, you whispered. Let's take you home. The sand shifted softly under your feet as you walked toward the waves. Each step left a fleeting mark, soon to be erased. The turtle blinked slowly, as if trusting you. When the first wave rolled in, you knelt again and lowered it into the foam. For a moment it floated there, uncertain. Then with a small flick of its flippers, it began to swim. You watched it disappear beneath the surface, a shadow sliding into silver. You stayed there for a long time, staring out over the water. The sea was quiet again, the light softer now, the kind of light that makes everything seem sacred. You thought about how fragile the world can be, and how often its survival depends on the smallest gestures. A turtle, a handful of boys, a word spoken in kindness, all ripples in a great, unseen tide. Your grandmother used to tell stories about turtles. She said they were ancient messengers, walking between the worlds of men and gods. In Shinto shrines, their carved forms sat beside the fox and crane, each a symbol of some divine truth. The turtle's shell, she said, was the roof of the universe, its body the foundation of the earth. To harm one was to insult the sea itself. You had forgotten those tales until this moment. Now, watching the horizon shimmer, you felt their truth return. Perhaps the gods do not speak with thunder, you thought. Perhaps they speak through small, living things, and the way we treat them. Behind you, the village carried on with its quiet rhythm. Nets were hung to dry. Fires were lit for cooking. You could hear distant chatter, laughter, the clatter of bowls. Yet here at the edge of the tide, the world felt suspended, still hushed, as if something unseen had paused to listen. You dipped your hands into the water. It was warmer now, wrapping around your fingers like silk. The turtle was gone, but its absence felt like a promise. You wondered if it would remember you, or if the sea itself had seen and taken note. There was an old belief that when you saved a creature of the water, you earned its gratitude, and one day it would return that favor in ways you could not imagine. You didn't think much of that then. You simply felt the quiet satisfaction of having done something right. But somewhere deep within, a seed had been planted, one that would one day change the course of your life. The sun began to lower, staining the waves in shades of amber and rose. The wind softened, brushing through your hair, carrying the faint sound of a flute from the village. You gathered your nets and began to walk home. As you did, you looked back once, just once, and thought you saw something move far out at sea. A shape, small and dark, breaking the surface before sinking again. Maybe it was the turtle. Maybe not. But you felt a strange warmth bloom in your chest, a feeling that lingered long after the last light faded. That night, as the village settled into silence, you lay awake listening to the sea outside your window. The waves rolled and receded, whispering to the shore. You imagined a turtle swimming somewhere far below, gliding through beams of moonlight, free again. You thought about how everything in life, mercy, friendship, love, begins with something small. Sometimes you realized destiny does not announce itself. It begins quietly, with an act so gentle it barely disturbs the air. A soft evening descends now in your memory. The waves shimmer silver under moonlight, the sky turning the color of old paper. The stars are just beginning to bloom. And somewhere out there, perhaps, a small turtle swims toward a story that will one day find its way back to you. Have you ever done something small that returned to you in ways you never imagined? Leave me a thought when you awaken. Some journeys begin not with footsteps, but with faith. It was an ordinary morning at first, the sort of morning that promised nothing more than a quiet catch and an early return. The sea was smooth, too smooth, its surface like unbroken glass. You had rowed farther than usual, chasing the silver glint of fish that always seemed just beyond reach. The sky hung pale and cloudless, the sun rising behind a thin veil of mist. Everything felt suspended. The air, the waves, even your heartbeat. It was as if the world itself were holding its breath. You noticed it first in the stillness. No gulls cried above, no wind stirred your hair. The sea that had always whispered inside now lay silent. You rested your oar, uneasy, listening for any sound. Then, from beneath your boat, something stirred, a faint shimmer, a shadow that grew brighter until it broke the surface. It was the turtle. For a moment you couldn't move. The same creature you had rescued days ago floated beside your boat, its shell gleaming like burnished jade. But it seemed larger now, older, its eyes deep and knowing. It looked at you, not as an animal might, but as something ancient might gaze upon the fleeting. You whispered its name, though you had never given it one. The turtle blinked slowly, and then impossibly it spoke. Urashima, it said, the voice soft and echoing, like water spilling from a hollow stone. You freed me when I was helpless. You showed mercy where others showed cruelty. My mistress, Princess Otoheim of Ryugujo, wishes to thank you herself. Will you come with me beneath the sea? You stared, not sure if you were dreaming. Words failed you. A talking turtle? A princess beneath the waves? Yet, as strange as it sounded, some part of you wasn't afraid. The sea had always felt alive, as though it listened when you spoke. Perhaps this was its answer. You began, but your voice faltered. I cannot breathe beneath the water. The turtle tilted its head, a slow, amused motion. Those who are invited need not fear. The sea will cradle you as it does her own. You hesitated. The invitation shimmered between fear and wonder. What if it was a trick? What if you never returned? But then again, what if it was real, a doorway to something beyond the edge of human life? The thought of the unknown both frightened and drew you. All your life, you watched the horizon and wondered what lay beyond it. Perhaps now, the sea was answering your curiosity. You looked down at the turtle's eyes, calm, patient, unwavering. If the princess truly wishes it, you said softly, then I will come. The turtle dipped its head. Then hold on. You leaned over the side of your boat, hands trembling as you touched the water. It was warm, warmer than it should have been, and beneath its surface glowed a soft light, as though dawn had risen under the waves. You took a breath, closed your eyes, and let go. The sea received you gently like an embrace. You expected cold, resistance, the panic of drowning, but none came. Instead, you felt yourself growing lighter, your body buoyed not by effort but by surrender. The water slid around you like silk, clear and luminous. When you opened your eyes, you saw the turtle swimming ahead, its shell shimmering gold-green in the light. You followed. Down you drifted deeper and deeper, past shoals of fish that shimmered like falling stars. Coral towers rose in the distance, pale pink and ivory, waving with living motion. A school of silver fish curved around you like ribbons, unafraid. You realized you were breathing, not through your mouth, not through any effort, but through the sea itself, as if it had become part of you. The deeper you went, the more the world changed. The light softened into hues of green and blue, until you felt as though you were gliding through a dream. Seaweed swayed like fields of grass, and jellyfish drifted past like lanterns, pulsing with their own quiet glow. Every sound was slow, echoing. Your heartbeat, the soft stroke of your guide's flippers, the ancient hum of the deep. Where are we going? You asked, though your voice felt small here. To Ryugujo, said the turtle. The Dragon Palace, home of Princess Otoheim, she who keeps the harmony of the tides and listens to the songs of the moon. You let the words wash over you. You had heard tales of such places from elders in your village. Stories whisper around fires on stormy nights. They spoke of the undersea palace where time itself paused, where beauty lived untouched by age. But those were legends told to children. Now, as you glided through this vast and living silence, you began to wonder if all legends were simply truths we've forgotten how to see. The water grew brighter again, though you could no longer tell where the light came from. Ahead, the turtle gestured with its flipper, and through a haze of coral you saw it, the faint outline of a gate. It was enormous, arching like the mouth of dawn, carved from pearl and guarded by two seahorses the size of oxen. Their eyes glowed gently as you approached, and the gates began to open soundlessly. You passed through. The sight that met you stole your breath, if you still had breath to steal. The Dragon Palace shimmered before you, a city built of coral and shell, roofed with jewels that caught and scattered the light into rainbows. Gardens of kelp drifted like banners. Schools of fish formed living patterns, weaving through pillars and halls. And everywhere, the water gleamed with a soft golden hue, as though the sun itself had found a home here beneath the sea. The turtle turned back to you, smiling in that strange way turtles do. We have arrived, it said. The princess awaits. You nodded, Though your heart trembled between awe and disbelief, the palace doors loomed ahead, framed by lotus patterns of coral. You could almost hear music inside, slow, drifting like wind through bamboo. You thought of your village then, of your mother's laughter, of the smell of rice cooking on the fire, of the waves that once seemed so vast but now felt so small compared to this. For a heartbeat, you wondered if you should turn back. But then, a voice deep within whispered, "You have come this far. Let the tide carry you." You followed the turtle through the gates, into the heart of the sea's mystery. And as the water around you glowed brighter, your fear faded. You no longer felt human or foreign, only part of something ancient and kind. Close your eyes. Imagine sinking into calm water. Would you go if the sea called your name? In Ryugujo, even time forgot how to move. You awaken as though from a long and tender dream. The water around you glows with a gentle gold, soft as dawn seen through silk. For a moment, you can't tell whether you are breathing or floating. Your body feels weightless, your thoughts slow and still. The sea hums quietly, a low note that seems to come from everywhere at once. You open your eyes, and the world reveals itself in color and motion beyond imagining. Before you stretches a vast palace made not of stone, but of coral and light. Its towers rise like blossoms frozen mid-bloom, each one carved by the patient hand of time. The walls shimmer in hues of jade and rose, pearl and lapis, reflecting the light of unseen suns. Gardens of seaweed drift in the currents like silk banners, their movements as graceful as sighs. Pearls lie scattered in the sand like fallen stars, and schools of fish dart among them, weaving living ribbons of silver through the water. The air, or what feels like air, is perfumed with salt and something sweeter, something like memory itself. The sound is constant but tender. The murmur of the sea, the distant chime of shells brushing together, the faint echo of music played on invisible strings. You feel no fear here, only peace. The turtle who guided you glides beside you, its shell glowing faintly as it leads you toward the palace gates. 2 great carp swim in lazy circles around the entrance, their scales flashing like bronze mirrors. As you approach, the gates open soundlessly, the coral doors blooming outward like petals. Inside, the light deepens into a luminous dusk, soft, dreamlike, eternal. At the heart of the hall stands a woman, Princess Otoheim. She is unlike anyone you have ever seen, or perhaps unlike anyone who could exist in the waking world. Her hair floats around her like black silk stirred by invisible tides, her robe shifting colors as the water moves. One moment white as moonlight, the next green as sea glass. Her eyes are calm, deep, and ancient, yet when they meet yours there's warmth. Not the distant grace of divinity, but the quiet kindness of someone who has seen your heart and finds it good. "Welcome, Urashima," she says, and her voice sounds like a current passing through reeds. "The sea remembers every kindness, and I have waited to thank you." You bow instinctively, words caught in your throat. "I only did what was right," you say, though the sound feels strange, as if your voice has been softened by the water. Her smile deepens. "That is why the sea loves you. Those who act without seeking reward are rare, on land or below it." She gestures gently, and you follow her through vast corridors where the walls gleam with layers of nacre. Each hall opens into another wonder. Gardens of coral shaped like cherry trees in bloom, fountains of silver bubbles that rise and drift upward forever, mirrors made from polished shells that reflect not your face, but fragments of dreams. Everywhere, creatures of the deep move in harmony. Seahorses in pairs, eels that glimmer like ribbons, turtles resting in pools of moonlight. There is no fear among them, no hunger, no haste. "Here," says Otoheim, "the world does not change. Sorrow does not grow nor joy fade. Time sleeps beneath our roofs." You listen, half entranced, half uneasy. The idea of peace without end feels both beautiful and strange. In your village, life was shaped by change, the tides, the seasons, the steady pulse of work and rest. But here, nothing seems to age. Even the coral, which in the wild grows and breaks and grows again, remains perfect, untouched. Otoheim leads you to a balcony overlooking the gardens. From here, the sea stretches in every direction, vast and shimmering. You can see the outer walls of Ryugujo, curving like the rim of a great pearl. Beyond them, everything dissolves into blue infinity. She stands beside you, her gaze distant, thoughtful. In the world above, she says softly, beauty is born and dies every day. The blossom falls, the tide retreats, the face grows old. But here, nothing withers. We have learned to hold eternity. You look out at the still perfection of her realm, the soft light, the endless harmony, and you feel awe, but also something else, something you cannot name. And yet, you say slowly, if nothing changes, how do you know joy when it comes? Her eyes flick toward you, a faint sadness within their calm. Perhaps we do not, she admits. Perhaps that is the price of peace. You think then of your village, the laughter, the storms, the smell of smoke after rain. Life was fragile there, uncertain but alive. Here, everything gleams, eternal but distant, as if you stepped into a painted dream. Otoheim seems to sense your thought. Do not let sorrow trouble you, she says gently. You are safe here, Urashima. You may rest, you may feast, you may wander. No way will harm you, no night will fall. She reaches out and places a pearl in your hand. It glows softly, pulsing with its own light. Keep this with you. It will remind the sea that you are a friend. The warmth of her touch lingers long after she draws away. Around you, the palace hums with quiet life. Servant of coral and foam drift by, bearing trays of fruits you've never seen. Spheres of light that taste like summer, cups of liquid silver that cool the soul. Music plays from somewhere unseen, a melody so slow and gentle it feels like breathing. You begin to forget the weight of time. Days pass, or perhaps moments. In Ryugujo, there are no clocks, no sun, no moon. Only light that shifts like thought and currents that never stop moving. You walk through the gardens, touch the coral trees that hum faintly beneath your palms, and feel the strange ache of beauty that cannot fade. Once, you ask a servant where the Dragon King is. The being, neither man nor fish, smiles faintly. He dreams, it says, and in his dreams the sea obeys. At night, if it can be called night, you lie on a bed of woven kelp, looking out through the translucent walls. Fish glide by like silent constellations. The water glows faintly with the rhythm of unseen tides. Somewhere in the distance, you hear a song, low, wordless, eternal. It sounds like the heartbeat of the world. You close your eyes and let the sound carry you. For the first time in your life, you feel what it means to be free from fear, from hunger, from time. Yet deep within, a quiet voice whispers, reminding you that even peace, when perfect, becomes a cage. Would you stay in a world where nothing ever changed? Paradise is sweetest when you remember it can end. At first, every day in Ryugujo felt like a miracle. You would wake to the soft shimmer of light filtering through coral windows. The water tinted gold and rose like the sky before dawn. Music drifted from the halls, not played by hands, but born of the sea itself. You never tired of its calm rhythm, nor the gentle laughter that echoed through the gardens. Servants brought trays of fruit that glowed softly like lanterns, fish steamed in fragrant leaves, cups filled with nectar that never seemed to empty. You ate without hunger, drank without thirst, lived without worry. And always, Princess Otoheim was there. She walked beside you through gardens of living coral, teaching you the names of things you'd never seen. The moon shell that hums with light, the whispering kelp that grows only in shadow, the eel that dances to the music of tides. Her voice was soft but full of wisdom, and when she smiled, it felt as if the sea itself smiled with her. You found joy in her presence, an ease that dulled every sharp edge of memory. Days, if they could be called days, passed like drifting clouds. You played the flute made of pearls she gifted you, and the sound carried to the halls like a human heartbeat in a world of quiet waves. You joined feasts that never truly ended. Long tables laid with shimmering shells and cups carved from crystal, music flowing like wine. The air or the water pulsed with slow delight. You could have believed it would last forever. But sometimes when the music faded and you sat alone beneath the coral arches, something stirred inside you, a small, stubborn ache. You would close your eyes and a memory would flicker like a distant star. Your mother's hands rinsing rice, your father's voice calling from the shore, the smell of wood smoke and seaweed drying on ropes. You would reach for those memories, but they slipped through your grasp like minnows. Each time, they returned fainter, dimmer, as though the sea was slowly washing them away. One day, you found Otoheim in her garden, sitting beside a pool of clear water where fish with translucent fins drifted in circles. Her expression was distant, her fingers tracing ripples on the surface. "Does time move here?" you asked her quietly. She looked up, her eyes unreadable. "Not as you know it," she said. "Here, we live outside the tide of decay. We do not lose, we do not change. And yet," you said softly, "I feel something slipping away." She smiled, but there was sadness in it. "That is not time, Urashima. That is memory. Mortals are not made to live without it." Her words lingered long after she left. You began to wonder if beauty, without change, could ever be true beauty at all. The coral walls were as perfect as the first day you saw them, yet somehow that perfection began to feel hollow, too flawless, too still. The laughter of the courtiers began to sound like the same note, repeated endlessly. Even the taste of the fruit, once divine, began to lose its sweetness. At the next feast, you sat beside Otoheim as the hall filled with music. Around you, guests danced in slow spirals, their robes gleaming like the scales of fish. Platters of food appeared and vanished. Cups refilled themselves. Laughter rippled like current. It should have been bliss, yet you found yourself listening for something that wasn't there. The rough sound of human joy, the unpredictable rhythm of a drum beaten by mortal hands. Otoheim noticed your silence. "Does this not please you anymore?" she asked. "It does," you said, though your voice lacked conviction. "It's beautiful, beyond words. But sometimes I miss imperfection." "Imperfection?" she repeated, as if tasting the word. "Why long for what causes sorrow?" "Because it also brings meaning," you said after a pause. "A song that ends is more precious than one that plays forever." She looked at you for a long moment. "You are still bound to the world above," she said gently. "It is not wrong. Even paradise cannot erase the pull where you began." Her kindness only deepened your restlessness. You began to wander the palace more often, finding hidden corridors where the light dimmed and silence thickened. In one such hall, you came upon a great mirror made of pearl, its frame carved with patterns of waves and dragons. The surface shimmered faintly, reflecting not your face, but a blur of color and motion. Fields, mountains, the outline of a village. You stepped closer, heart pounding. The image grew clearer. You saw your home, though not as you left it. The roofs were changed, the people strange. You saw the sea, restless and wide. And then, as if from far away, you heard the sound of gulls, rough and real, not like the perfect music of Ryugujo. For the first time in this paradise, you felt tears rise. You pressed your hand against a mirror, but it rippled beneath your touch like water. The vision dissolved. That night, as you lay in your pearl chamber, you could not sleep. The peace that once soothed you now felt heavy. You realized that even happiness can grow sharp when it stops moving. The sea outside glowed softly, unchanging, and for the first time, its stillness frightened you. You longed for wind, for storms, for something that reminded you that you were alive. The next morning, you found Otoheim waiting for you in the garden again. Her gaze was gentle, but you could see she already knew what you would say. "Princess," you whispered, "I am grateful for your kindness, but my heart aches. I miss the world above, my home, my mother, even the pain of being mortal." She nodded slowly, her eyes calm but sorrowful. "I knew this day would come. No human can stay where time stands still. It is not in your nature." "Have I been here long?" you asked. She hesitated. "Here, days do not pass as they do above. For you, perhaps months. For your world, who can say?" The words struck deep. You realizing that the mirror had not shown a dream, but truth. Time had gone on without you. That evening, there was another feast. It was more splendid than ever. Music brighter, laughter louder, food richer, as though the palace itself wished to offer you one last perfect memory. Yet beneath the joy, you felt a strange stillness, a farewell unspoken. Otoheim sat beside you, silent, her gaze fixed on the glowing cups before her. You ate little, your heart heavy with a sweetness you could no longer bear. The endless feast had lost its flavor. All that remained was gratitude and longing. Later, you returned to the mirror of pearl. When you looked this time, you saw not the world above, but your own reflection. Older, softer around the edges, eyes filled with both wonder and weariness. What is paradise, you whispered, if it asks you to forget who you were? And from somewhere deep within the mirror, a ripple of light passed, as if an answer. What memory would you carry into eternity? If you could only keep one. Every return is a kind of loss. When the moment finally came, it did not arrive with fanfare or decision, but with silence, a stillness in your chest that whispered, "It is time." You had lived among the waves and pearls for what seemed like months, though in truth it had been far longer than you could comprehend. In Ryugujo, there were no seasons to measure, no sunsets to count. But somewhere deep inside you, the part still human, still bound to the rhythm of breath and grief, you began to ache for the world above. You longed for the roughness of sand beneath your feet, the cry of gulls, the scent of wet earth after rain. You found Odoheim in the garden of singing shells, where she often went to listen to the murmurs of the sea. She was seated on a coral bench, her robe glimmering faintly, her face calm as moonlight. When she looked up and met your eyes, she already knew. "You wish to go home," she said softly. You hesitated. "I love it here," you answered and meant it. "But the sea inside me grows restless. I dream of things I can no longer touch. My village, my mother's voice, the wind that changes with the season." Odoheim's expression did not change, but her hands folded slowly in her lap, as though she were holding something fragile. "You are human, Urashima. To live without change is to forget yourself. The sea gave you peace, but it cannot give you time." You bowed your head. "Then let me return." She rose and walked to the edge of the garden pool, where the water shimmered like glass. When she turned back, she held something small, a lacquered box, dark red with golden trim. Its surface glowed faintly, as if holding its own light. "This is the Tamatabeko," she said. "It contains what the sea cannot give, a part of the time you have left behind. Take it with you, but never open it. Whatever happens, promise me this." You frowned. "What is inside?" Her eyes softened, and for a heartbeat, you thought you saw sorrow there. "Memory," she whispered, "and mercy. If you open it, the two will become one." You didn't understand, but you nodded. "I promise." Odoheim placed the box in your hands. It was surprisingly light, warm even to the chill of the water. The golden pattern seemed to move like waves. You could almost hear it breathing, slow, patient, eternal. The princess reached up then, touching your cheek gently. You showed kindness once to a creature the world forgot. Now, the sea returns that kindness. Remember, Urashima, every gift has a purpose, and every goodbye carries its own blessing. You wanted to thank her, to tell her what her kindness had meant, but the words failed. Instead, you bowed deeply, and when you looked up again, she was already stepping back into the misted light of her palace. Her final words drifted toward you like a wave. "Go, before your heart forgets how to beat for sun." The turtle, your old companion, appeared beside you as if from nowhere. It nodded silently, and you followed. Your ascent began quietly. The palace faded beneath you, its colors dissolving into the darkening blue. As you rose, the water grew colder. Shafts of light broke through the shadows, wavering like ribbons. The higher you climbed, the heavier your body felt, as if the sea was reluctant to let you go. You glanced down once, catching a last glimpse of Ryugujo, distant, radiant, already becoming a dream. The turtle swam close to you, its eyes solemn. "You will remember none of this clearly," it said. "Only the feeling, like the memory of a song you once knew." "That is enough," you murmured. The water grew brighter now, the currents quicker. Tiny bubbles rose like silver stars. Your heart pounded, not from fear, but from the strange sadness of leaving a place that had taught you peace. You felt it closing behind you like a door. When you finally broke through the surface, the world was blinding. The sun lay low on the horizon, spilling gold across the waves. The air was cool, sharp, almost painful against your skin. You gasped, tasting salt and wind, real wind, not the gentle breath of the deep. The turtle surfaced beside you, watching. "You are home," it said. You turned to thank it, but it was already gliding away, vanishing beneath the rippling light. You called out once, but the sea only answered with its endless whisper. You rowed toward the shore, your small boat waiting where you had left it, or so it seemed. The oars were brittle with age, the ropes frayed, covered in moss. You frowned, unease creeping into your chest. The cliffs looked different, sharper somehow, the trees on the hills grown strange and tall. You told yourself it was a light. The sea always changes what it reflects. When your feet touched sand, the feeling deepened. The village, once so familiar, was gone. In its place stood another. Smaller houses, different roofs, faces you did not know. You walked among them like a ghost, clutching the Tamada close. People turned to stare. Some whispered. An old man approached you, his eyes kind but cautious. "Traveler," he said, "from where do you come? Your clothes, they are not of this age." You told him your name, your village, your parents' names, but he only shook his head. "Those names are from the stories of my grandfather's grandfather," he said. "Urashima Taro, the fisherman who vanished into the sea." The word struck like thunder. Centuries had passed. The world you remembered was dust. Your family, your home, even the trees by the shore, all gone, melted into time like salt and water. You stood on the beach, staring at the horizon, where sky met sea in a line of trembling light. The Tamada felt heavy now in your hands, as if it shared your sorrow. You wanted to cry out, but your voice failed. The waves lapped gently at your feet, as though trying to comfort you, or perhaps to claim you once more. You sank to your knees. The air was too bright, too sharp. The world moved too quickly. For the first time in years or centuries, you felt the weight of your own heartbeat, the pull of time reasserting itself. You clutched the box to your chest and whispered, "What am I to do with a life that has already ended?" No answer came. Only the sea, endless and calm, pretending not to know. You remembered Odoheim's words. Never open it. But already you could feel the temptation stirring. If the box truly held memory or mercy, perhaps it could bring back what was lost. Perhaps it could return you to the world that no longer remembered you. You closed your eyes, feeling tears sting like salt. Around you, the waves rose and fell in slow rhythm, as though breathing with you. You thought of Odoheim's touch, her eyes filled with kindness and sorrow. You thought of the turtle's voice. You thought of the boy you once were, standing barefoot at the same shore, not knowing what awaited him. Every return you realize is a kind of loss, not because the world changes, but because you do. You turned your face toward the horizon one last time. The sea glittered like a memory you could not hold. In your hands, the Tamada pulsed faintly, alive, waiting, patient as fate. If someone you love asked you to trust them blindly, could you? Time had not waited for kindness. You stand on the same beach that once shaped your childhood, and yet everything is foreign. The sand feels different beneath your feet. Finer, colder, untouched by the footprints that once marked your days. The air smells sharper, carrying the faint scent of smoke from distant fires, not the comforting driftwood and rice you remember. Even the waves sound strange. Their rhythm is the same, but their voice has changed, older, more distant, as though speaking a language you no longer understand. You turn slowly, scanning the horizon. Where once there were simple huts with thatched roofs and fishing nets dry in the sun, there are now new structures, taller, built of stone, and what you do not recognize. Paths that once led to your home twist in unfamiliar directions. You walk them anyway, half hoping that your feet will remember what your mind cannot. At the edge of the village, a boy runs past you, carrying a basket of shells. He doesn't look up. None of them do. The villagers pass you with polite glances, their clothes finer, their speech strange, the rhythm of their words slightly different. A dialect that feels like a song you once knew, but can no longer hum. You stop one of them, a woman with kind eyes, and ask softly, "Do you know the house of Fisherman Taro?" She blinks, confused. "The Fisherman Taro," she repeats, as if searching her memory. "There was such a man, long ago. My grandmother told stories of him when I was a child, the one who went to the sea and never returned. But that was hundreds of years past. The world tilts. Your lips part, but no sound comes. The words fall away, leaving only silence, the kind that settles deep into the bones. You step back, dazed, and she gives you a sympathetic smile before walking on, unaware that her words have hollowed out your heart. You wander, through the village, through fields that once belonged to people you loved. You find nothing you recognize. No shrine where your father prayed, no hill where your mother once called your name. The trees have changed. The coastline has shifted. Even the mountain in the distance, once blue with pine, now looks bare and strange. It is as if the earth itself has moved on. You stop beside a stream that runs through the valley, or what used to be a valley. You kneel, cupping the water in your hands. It is cool, clear, familiar for a fleeting second before it slips through your fingers. That, too, is time, you think, beautiful, impossible to hold. You close your eyes and whisper your parents' names, but they vanish into the air like smoke. The villagers' children laugh nearby. Their joy cuts through you, not out of bitterness, but because it is so alive. You remember that sound, though not their faces. You used to laugh like that once, before you learn what it means to outlive memory. As the day fades, you climb the small hill overlooking the shore. From here, you can see the entire stretch of coast, where your boat once rested, where you first met the turtle, where you cast your nets each morning. All of it is strange now, yet beneath the surface, the sea remains. The same waves roll and break, as they always have, as they always will. It's the world that changes, not the ocean. You realize then that the sea did not lie to you. It never promised that it would wait, only that it would remember. And in some small way, it does. You can feel it watching, an old friend just beyond reach. But the land forgets. It has no memory for names washed away by centuries. You wander until dusk, drawn to where your home once stood. You find nothing but a scatter of stones, half buried by weeds. You kneel beside them, touching the earth. It feels warm still from the day's sun, alive with insects and roots, the quiet persistence of the living. You whisper a prayer you haven't spoken in years. It feels strange on your tongue, but comforting too. A soft wind rises from the sea. It brushes through your hair, carrying a faint, familiar sound, almost a voice, though it could be the waves. For a heartbeat, you imagine you hear Otoheim calling your name. You close your eyes. The memory of her face flickers like light beneath water. The softness of her smile, the sorrow in her gaze when you left. It feels close enough to touch, but when you open your eyes, only twilight remains. You walk again, your steps slower now, your shadow long and thin against the sand. The first stars appear overhead, mirrored in the calm surface of the tide. You remember how she once told you that stars were tears of the sea, the places where heaven and water meet. You look at them and wonder if they, too, remember you. In your pocket, you still carry the Tamadabeko. It rests against your palm like a living heart, warm and steady. You can feel it pulsing faintly, or perhaps it's just your own pulse, reminding you that you're still here, still caught between worlds. You think of Otoheim's warning. Never open it. But the loneliness presses down, thick as fog. You have no one left to return to, no place that knows your name. The villagers' fires flicker in the distance, warm and unreachable. You are both of this world and not of it. You walk along the shore until the moon rises. It casts a path of light across the water, the same water that once carried you to paradise. You wonder if she's looking up from beneath that shining surface, her hand lifted toward you. Perhaps she feels it too, that ache of remembering something perfect and knowing it's gone. You sit down at the edge of the tide. The sand is cold now, the sea whispering softly as if telling you that grief, too, is a kind of tide. You let it wash through you. You think of the turtle, of the day you saved it, and how that single act changed everything. You remember the feel of its shell in your hands, the cool smoothness of it, the way it looked back at you with quiet knowing. You realize that you began your journey with compassion, and now, even in loss, that compassion is what remains. Perhaps that is what the sea meant to teach you. You lie back on the sand, watching the stars tremble in the black water. The world you knew has faded, but the sea still hums its same eternal song. It doesn't mourn or celebrate. It simply moves. You close your eyes, breathing with it, the rhythm slow and steady, like sleep approaching. You understand now that the sea and time are the same. They never stop, never stay. And though you are forgotten, you are still part of their motion. The world has moved on, but you are still here to witness it. Have you ever gone back to a place that no longer felt like home? Some gifts can only be opened once. You hold the Temida Bako in your hands, its surface gleaming faintly under the pale moonlight. For days, or perhaps weeks, you have carried it close, its weight growing heavier with every breath. At first, you resisted the urge to open it, clinging to Otoheim's voice in your memory. Never open it. But the voice has grown faint now, fading like a dream at dawn. What remains is silence, the kind that hums deep inside the chest, heavy with longing. You sit upon the same shore where your life once began. The sand is cool beneath you, damp with the tide's slow return. Around you, the world has gone still. The village sleeps. Only the sea stirs. Its surface shimmers under a sickle moon, waves folding softly over one another, whispering secrets you almost recognize. You trace the golden lines of the box with your thumb. It feels alive, warm, pulsing faintly, as if something within it breathes. The patterns shift like moving tides, each curve reminiscent of the waves you once sailed, the ones that carried you down to Ryugujo. You think of Otoheim's eyes, how calm they were even when filled with sorrow. You remember the way of her hand on yours, her final words, "Promise me." But promises are fragile things when stretched across eternity. You whisper to the night, "I only want to remember," and then slowly you lift the lid. The sound is soft, almost tender, a sigh, the kind a sleeping child makes. From within, white smoke rises, curling like silk ribbons through the air. It glows faintly at first, then brightens until the night itself seems to hold its breath. You blink, startled, as the smoke touches your skin. It is warm, not burning, but deeply warm, like the first sunlight after winter. And then it happens. Your hands tremble. A strange weakness spreads through your limbs, gentle yet unstoppable. The air seems to grow heavy, your heart beats slower. You watch in disbelief as the skin on your hands changes, lines deepening, color fading, veins rising like river paths. Your hair, once black as the deep, begins to pale. The sea breeze catches strands of white and scatters them like foam. You understand now. The box was not a curse. It was truth. The years you spent beneath the sea, the centuries that passed above, had been waiting for you here, in this small, patient container. Time had not forgotten you. It had simply been held back, mercifully delayed, until you were ready to face it. The Temida Bako was never punishment. It was grace. The smoke swirls around you in shapes that shift like memory, faces, voices, light. For a moment, you see your mother again. She stands on the old shore, her hair loose in the wind, smiling the way she did before age touched her. You smell the rice cooking, hear her call your name, feel her hand on your shoulder. You close your eyes and whisper, "Mother," but the smoke drifts, carrying her image away, dissolving into the night. Then, another voice fills the air, soft, distant, eternal. "Otoheim, do not weep, Urashima," she says. Her voice moves through the air like a tide, calm and tender. The box was never meant to hurt you. It was my gift, my farewell. Inside it lay your time, all that you left behind. You could not walk between two worlds forever. The sea gave you peace, but the shore gives you truth. And truth, even when heavy, is freedom. You lift your gaze to the horizon. The stars blur through your tears. "I didn't understand," you whisper. "No," her voice replies, fading gently. "You weren't meant to. Life is not meant to be understood while you're living it, only loved." The smoke rises higher, spreading across the beach, wrapping you in its glow. It feels like being held. The wind dies, even the sea pauses, listening. You are old now, impossibly old. Yet within that age, a strange calm grows. The longing that gnawed at your heart begins to loosen, replaced by something deeper, acceptance. You realize that the Tamada Bako has done what neither time nor memory could. It has joined the two halves of your life. The man who lived beneath the sea and the boy who once walked this shore are no longer separate. They are one, both equally fleeting, both equally real. You look at your reflection in the quiet water beside you. It is not the face you remember. The skin is lined, the eyes soft with age. But behind that face, you see all that you have been, the fisherman, the guest of the sea, the lost wanderer, the man who could not forget kindness. You see that the journey was never about returning to what was lost, but learning how to let it go. The last of the smoke gathers above you, glowing faintly against the stars. It twists and turns until it forms a shape, a great turtle, luminous and serene. For a moment, you think you hear laughter, the gentle kind that ripples like water on stone. Then it fades, rising into the sky until it becomes one with the clouds. You feel no fear now, only peace. The ache of loneliness that once filled you is gone, replaced by stillness, not the eternal stillness of mujō, but the stillness of understanding. You think of how the sea holds both life and death, how it destroys and nourishes with the same hand. Perhaps that is what Otoheim wanted you to see, that beauty and sorrow were never opposites, only reflections of each other. The last wisp of smoke brushes against your cheek. It feels like a kiss goodbye. You close your eyes, smiling faintly through tears. The air around you shimmers, and you think you hear the sound of waves far away, gentle, endless, forgiving. When you open your eyes again, dawn has begun to break. The first light spills across the water, touching the edge of the Tamada Bako, now empty. The gold on its surface has faded to a soft, worn red, as if it too has aged. You set it gently on the sand. The sea stretches before you, calm and infinite. You feel your heartbeat slow, steady, in rhythm with its motion. You're neither young nor old now, just part of the tide, caught between memory and peace. You whisper to the wind, "Thank you," and the sea answers not in words, but in a sigh, the sound of foam kissing the shore. If you could see your whole life at once, would you still open the box? In the end, all waves return to the sea. Long after Urashima's story has faded into legend, the sea still breathes the same slow rhythm. The waves come and go, folding over themselves, whispering to the sand that once knew his footsteps. Somewhere beneath that endless blue lies the Dragon Palace, its coral towers asleep, its halls lit by the faint glow of memory. Above, on the quiet shore, the wind carries the faintest echo of a fisherman's laughter. Or perhaps it's just the sea remembering. It's strange, isn't it? How stories linger long after the people who live them are gone. We tell them not to preserve time, but to soften it, to turn the sharp edge of loss into something gentle enough to hold. Urashima's tale is not one of punishment, but of awakening. It's the story of a man who touched eternity and learned that even paradise cannot protect us from impermanence. The sea did not betray him. It only revealed what the land had hidden, that everything we love, no matter how beautiful, must one day pass away. In Japan, there's a word for this, mono no aware. It means the quiet sadness in the passing of things, but also the gratitude that they existed at all. It's the sigh we feel when cherry blossoms fall, or when the evening light fades from gold to gray. It's the understanding that beauty is inseparable from transience, that a world without endings would have no meaning. Urashima lived what poets later tried to describe. He saw that to cling to perfection is to lose it, but to let it go is to finally understand it. You can imagine him there, the last of his years spent sitting on that same shore, watching the tide rise and fall. Each wave was a memory. His mother's voice, Otoheim's smile, the laughter of the boys on the beach. At first, those memories must have hurt, but over time, they would have softened into something like music. The way grief becomes gentle once it's been loved long enough. Perhaps he realized then that his story had never been about the sea or the palace, but about the space between them, the fragile bridge of the human heart. We live always between what was and what will be, between longing and letting go. The Tamada Bako did not steal his life. It returned it to him. It showed him the truth that time had always known. We are not meant to stay. The more you think about it, the more you see that the sea itself is a teacher of impermanence. It never stops moving. No wave repeats. Even the shoreline changes every day, reshaped by tides that don't remember where they've been. And yet we call it eternal, not because it endures unchanged, but because it endures through change. That is its kind of immortality. Not stillness, but motion. Urashima's journey then mirrors our own. We spend our days gathering moments like shells, believing that if we hold them tightly enough, they'll stay beautiful. But the longer we grip them, the more they crumble. To love anything, truly love it, is to accept that it will vanish. That's what makes love sacred. That's what makes memory precious. The story of Urashima Taro reminds us that time is not an enemy to be conquered, but a companion to be respected. It moves beside us, patient and invisible, shaping us quietly while we live our small, brief days. Sometimes it carries us far, to places we never imagined. Sometimes it takes everything away, but always it returns us, to the shore, to ourselves, to understanding. You can almost see him now, sitting with his back to the sea, the empty Tamada Bako beside him. His hair is white, his hands line like the ripples of water. The sky above him burns gold before the sun sinks behind the horizon. The moment feels endless, but he knows better than to believe it is. He breathes it in, knowing that this breath, too, will pass. And maybe, just maybe, he smiles. Because to see impermanence is not to despair. It is to wake. It is to finally understand that the fleeting nature of life is what gives it its sweetness. The cherry blossoms fall because they must. The waves retreat so that they can return. The people we love will one day leave us, and we will one day leave them. But the love itself, the kindness, the connection, will ripple outward long after we're gone. That's the quiet promise hidden in every loss. That endings are only transformations. The sea does not lose its water when the tide goes out. It simply reshapes it. And so, too, does life. If you walk along any Japanese shore at dusk, you might still find the villagers speaking softly to the waves. Some say they do out of habit. Others say it's tradition. But perhaps, deep down, it's remembrance. Each whisper to the sea is a greeting to someone who once stood there and listened. Maybe Urashima's story is carried that way, not in temples or books, but in breath and tide. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture that endless horizon, the sky melting into the sea, the faint smell of salt, the hush of wind through your hair. Feel how small and infinite you are at once. The world moves on without your permission, but also without malice. You are part of its rhythm, like one wave among thousands. You rise, you fall, you fade, and that's all right. That's what you were meant to do. There's comfort in that, isn't there? To know that even when we vanish, the pattern remains. The same tide that carried Urashima away still rolls against the shore tonight. Somewhere, the sea still glows with the memory of his kindness. Somewhere, the moonlight still touches the water the same way it touched him. As you rest tonight, breathe slowly. Let the sound of your own breath become the tide. Let your worries drift with the waves. Whatever you're holding, joy, grief, love, regret, know that it too will pass, and that is what makes it beautiful. In the end, all waves return to the sea, and so will we. As you rest tonight, what part of your life do you wish to hold softly before letting it drift away? The sea dreams on. Even now, long after Urashima's footprints have been erased by centuries of tide, the shore remembers him in its quiet way. Each wave that brushes the sand carries a little of his story, the kindness that began it, the sorrow that shaped it, the peace that ended it. And as the night deepens, you can almost hear it. That slow, endless breathing of the ocean, moving like a heart that never forgets. Listen closely. The waves rise and fall with a rhythm older than memory. In and out, again and again, they are patient. They have no destination, no need to hurry. They simply exist, returning always to the place they began. The moon watches from above, her reflection trembling on the surface like a soft lantern. She has seen it all before. Fishermen and kings, storms and calm, beginnings and endings. Yet she never tires of it. She just shines, a witness to everything that moves beneath her light. You sit here now, where Urashima once stood, the cool sand beneath your fingers. The air hums softly with the sound of the sea. You can almost feel it breathing around you, the pull and release of water, the sigh of foam, the low rumble that seems to come from the earth itself. It's as though the world is rocking you gently, urging you to rest. The night is clear. Above you, the stars scatter across the sky like grains of salt. They flicker faintly, mirrored in the tide until it's impossible to tell where the heavens end and the sea begins. Somewhere far below, deep within that endless blue, Ryugujo lies still, its coral towers asleep beneath the weight of time. Otoheim dreams, perhaps, and in her dreams the palace glows again, full of laughter and music. She sees Urashima's face one last time, smiling, peaceful, finally free, and the sea around her glimmers with light. He has become part of it now. His spirit drifts through the currents like a soft ripple, neither lost nor bound, just moving, always moving, as all things must. When the waves crash, he is in their foam. When the morning mist rises, he is there too. He is the hush that follows a storm, the glint of sun on wet sand, the whisper that says everything passes, and that is all right. You breathe with the rhythm of the tide, in and out, slowly. The same breath that filled Urashima's chest when he first looked upon the horizon now fills yours. You are part of the same story, the same motion. The sea does not end, and neither do you. The wind softens. The world grows quieter. You can hear the faint sound of pebbles rolling under the water as the waves recede. Somewhere in the distance, a night bird calls once, then is silent. The sea continues its song, not loud, not insistent, but steady. It doesn't demand your attention. It invites it. Each sound melts into the next, until you can no longer tell where one begins. The ocean and the night become one, and you are simply there, floating inside their breath. If you close your eyes, you can see it. A field of silver light spreading across the water, each ripple catching the moon. The stars above reflect like lanterns drifting on a current, carrying wishes you once made and forgot. You feel lighter with every breath, as though your body, too, is beginning to float. The weight of the day slides away, replaced by the deep calm of the sea. The story of Urashima is not just a story. It's the story of everyone who has ever loved something enough to lose it, of everyone who has ever stood at the edge of change and hesitated. It reminds us that even the most beautiful moments cannot last, and that this is not cruelty, but grace. For if they lasted forever, we would never learn to cherish them. In the temple bells of Kyoto, in the rustle of leaves, in the hush before dawn, mujō, the truth of impermanence, is always there. The same truth lives here in the sea, in its endless ebb and flow. Every wave that rises must fall, and yet the ocean remains whole. So it is with you. As the tide draws closer to your feet, you feel its cool touch, a soft pulse, like the brush of a hand in the dark. You imagine Urashima's spirit, somewhere beyond the horizon, watching over the world he once walked. You think of Otoheim's gift, the Tamada Bako, and how, in the end, it freed him not from life, but from longing. There is no sorrow in that thought now, only peace. The waves murmur, and the air grows warmer. The sand beneath you shifts gently, adjusting to your weight, cradling you as though it knows you are tired. The moon hangs lower, her reflection stretching long and silver across the sea. Time itself seems to slow, then blur, then dissolve. You can feel your thoughts drifting like boats unmoored. One by one, they float away, worries, regrets, names, plans. There's no need to chase them. Let them go. Let them become small and distant, like ships sailing into the dark. The sea will take care of them. It always does. In this stillness, you can almost believe that the sea is dreaming of every soul it has ever carried, of every voice it has ever heard. Its dreams are vast and gentle, filled with the sound of waves folding over one another, endlessly returning. Perhaps that is what eternity truly is, not endless time, but endless return. Breathe with it. Let your heart beat slow until it matches the tide, a steady, unhurried rhythm. Feel the space between breaths widen, calm and open. The story is ending now, but its echo remains in you, soft as a retreating surf. The sea dreams on, and you are part of its dream. If you listen closely, you can hear it whisper to you, a sound both near and far like a lullaby. It says, "Rest now. Drift. The world is safe for this moment. You are where you belong." The waves fold again, quieter now. The moonlight fades from gold to silver, from silver to pearl. Even the stars seem to dim, as though closing their eyes. The night deepens into a stillness, so complete it feels like mercy. The sea dreams on. And soon, so will you. The story ends, but the sea still breathes. If this tale carried you gently tonight, share it, so its waves reach another dreamer.